Intermittent fasting, IF, represents an eating pattern characterized by alternating periods of voluntary food abstinence or significant caloric restriction with periods of regular eating. Unlike conventional dietary approaches that primarily dictate what foods to consume, IF focuses on when food is consumed, aiming to induce specific metabolic shifts within the body through temporary caloric deprivation. This fundamental distinction positions intermittent fasting as a flexible timing strategy rather than a restrictive diet focused on food types. The growing popularity of intermittent fasting in recent years is notable, with health experts frequently proposing it as a tool for weight management, cardiovascular health, and the reduction of oxidative stress. Despite its widespread discussion and adoption in public discourse, a comprehensive understanding of its long-term health effects in humans and its comparative efficacy against other established dietary interventions remains an area of ongoing scientific inquiry. This report aims to provide a thorough, evidence-based evaluation of intermittent fasting, synthesizing current scientific literature to clarify its mechanisms, proven benefits, limitations, and the nuanced considerations for its application. The disparity between public enthusiasm and the current state of conclusive scientific evidence highlights the critical need for an objective analysis that manages expectations and promotes informed decision-making. Intermittent fasting is not a singular dietary regimen, but rather an umbrella term encompassing several distinct protocols for temporary food avoidance or significant caloric reduction. These methods involve cycling between periods of normal eating and extended breaks where food intake is minimal or absent. The selection of a specific IF method often depends on individual lifestyle, health objectives, and personal preferences. Time-restricted eating is one of the most widely adopted forms of intermittent fasting. It involves limiting daily caloric intake to a specific window, typically ranging from 6 to 10 hours, followed by a 14 to 18-hour fasting period. Common examples include the 16-8 method, eating only between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., or the 14-10 method, eating between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. This approach is often considered convenient due to its integration with natural sleep cycles, effectively extending the overnight fast by simply skipping either breakfast or a late dinner. A primary rationale for TRE is its potential to align eating patterns with the body's natural circadian rhythm. This synchronization is hypothesized to optimize various physiological systems, as biological processes function more efficiently when synchronized. For instance, avoiding late-night eating can prevent disruptions to the body's natural repair mechanisms, which are typically active during sleep. This alignment suggests that TRE may offer benefits beyond simple caloric restriction or metabolic switching, potentially influencing sleep quality, hormone regulation, and cellular repair in ways distinct from other fasting protocols that do not emphasize daily timing. This makes TRE a potentially more physiologically congruent entry point into intermittent fasting, appealing to individuals seeking not just weight management, but also broader physiological optimization. Alternate day fasting involves a cycle of fasting for a full 24-hour period every other day. In some modified ADF protocols, individuals may consume a very low-calorie meal, typically up to 500 calories on fasting days, while eating normally on non-fasting days. Research indicates that ADF can yield notable short-term benefits. It has demonstrated superior weight loss compared to continuous calorie restriction and other intermittent fasting methods in trials lasting less than 24 weeks. Participants following ADF protocols in short-term studies lost an average of 1.3 kilograms more than those on reduced calorie diets. Furthermore, ADF has been associated with significant improvements in various cardiometabolic risk factors, including blood pressure, waist circumference, total cholesterol, and triglyceride levels. While ADF provides a rapid initial impact, its demanding nature raises questions about its long-term sustainability. Studies indicate that the short-term advantages of ADF tend to diminish in trials lasting 24 weeks or longer, where no significant differences in weight loss are observed between ADF and continuous energy restriction. Additionally, adherence rates for intense fasting protocols, such as whole-day fasting, have been observed to decline significantly over longer periods, with one study reporting a drop from 74% to 22% over a year. This suggests a trade-off. While ADF can deliver quick results, its strictness may pose challenges for sustained adherence, potentially limiting its long-term effectiveness for many individuals. Whole-day fasting, often exemplified by the 5-2 method, involves consuming a very low-calorie diet, typically 500 calories for women, 600 for men, on 2 non-consecutive days each week, with normal eating on the other 5 days. Another variant, Eat Stop Eat, entails a complete 24-hour fast once or twice a week. The 5-2 method has shown promising results for comprehensive metabolic improvement, particularly in patients with type 2 diabetes. It has demonstrated positive effects on fasting blood glucose, glycosidated hemoglobin, HbA1c, and insulin resistance. One study reported a significant reduction in HbA1c, 1.9%, with a 5-2 meal replacement plan, enabling a statistically significant number of participants to achieve HbA1c levels below 7%. While these protocols offer significant therapeutic potential, especially for specific conditions, their more demanding nature compared to daily time-restricted eating may lead to lower long-term adherence for the general population. This implies that the intensity of metabolic benefits offered by some WDF protocols might come at the cost of practical feasibility and sustained compliance over extended periods. Other notable intermittent fasting protocols include OMAD, 1 meal a day. This is an extreme form of time-restricted eating, where all daily calories are consumed within a single meal. 4-3 intermittent fasting involves restricting calorie intake by 80% of typical daily needs for 3 non-consecutive days each week, while maintaining normal, healthy eating on the remaining 4 days. A recent study published in 2025 indicated that 4-3 intermittent fasting resulted in modestly greater weight loss over 12 months, an average of 7.6% body weight loss, compared to daily calorie restriction, 5% body weight loss, and also improved cardiometabolic outcomes. The purported benefits of intermittent fasting are rooted in a series of complex physiological adaptations that occur when the body shifts from a fed state to a fasting state. These adaptations primarily involve changes in energy metabolism, cellular repair processes, and hormonal regulation. During fasting, the body undergoes a fundamental shift in its primary energy source, known as the metabolic switch. Initially, after food intake ceases, the body utilizes glucose derived from carbohydrates as its most direct fuel. As blood glucose levels decline, the pancreas reduces insulin secretion and increases glucagon production. Glucagon then triggers the liver to release stored glucose in the form of glycogen. This process, known as glycogenolysis, involves the breakdown of glycogen into glucose 1-phosphate, which is then converted to glucose 6-phosphate, and finally to free glucose, which is released into the bloodstream. Once liver glycogen stores are depleted, typically after 12 hours of fasting, the body transitions to mobilizing fat for energy. This involves the breakdown of triglycerides stored in adipose tissue into fatty acids and glycerol. Hormones such as glucagon, epinephrine, cortisol, and growth hormone, which increase during fasting, stimulate hormone-sensitive lipase, HSL, to initiate this process. The fatty acids are then primarily metabolized through beta oxidation in the mitochondria, producing acetyl-CoA, FAD, and NAD, which are used for energy production. Glycerol, on the other hand, is converted to dihydroacetone phosphate, DHAP, and can enter the glycolysis pathway. A critical outcome of this fat metabolism is ketogenesis, the production of ketone bodies, acetoacetate, beta-hydroxybutyrate, and acetone in the liver. These ketones serve as an alternative and efficient fuel source for various tissues, including the brain, especially when glucose is scarce. This shift to ketone utilization is considered a key driver of many observed health benefits of intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is believed to stimulate cellular repair processes, most notably autophagy. Autophagy, meaning self-eating in Greek, is a fundamental cellular mechanism responsible for the degradation and recycling of damaged organelles, misfolded proteins, and redundant cytoplasmic structures. This process is crucial for maintaining cellular homeostasis, eliminating metabolic waste, and providing energy substrates during conditions of stress such as nutrient deprivation. During intermittent fasting, nutrient-sensing pathways respond to reduced energy availability by activating autophagy. Specifically, AMP-activated protein kinase, AMPK, is upregulated, which in turn inhibits the mechanistic target of rapamycin complex 1, mTOR1. mTOR1 is a major suppressor of autophagy, so its inhibition allows for the activation of the UNC51-like kinase complex, ULK1, initiating the autophagy cascade. This mechanism promotes cellular adaptation to metabolic stress and enhances the clearance of damaged cellular components. The process of autophagy involves the formation of a membrane sac that encapsulates cellular waste, functioning like a trash bag. Scientists have recently elucidated the molecular mechanism behind the formation of these trash bags, discovering that hungry cells produce a protein container that stabilizes the membrane, allowing it to form cup-like structures to collect and contain waste. This discovery opens avenues for identifying drugs that could activate autophagy, potentially offering therapeutic strategies for conditions like neurodegenerative diseases, where protein aggregates accumulate around neurons and possibly slowing the aging process. Beyond energy metabolism and cellular cleansing, intermittent fasting also influences several key hormones and cellular stress responses. It can lead to a reduction in insulin levels, which is expected to decrease major adverse cardiovascular events. Lower insulin levels also contribute to enhanced fat burning and ketosis. Additionally, studies suggest that IF can increase norepinephrine, a hormone that helps burn more calories. Human growth hormone, HGH, levels can also naturally increase during fasting, a protein hormone vital for growth, metabolism, weight loss, and muscle strength. The mild stress induced by fasting prompts cells to adapt by enhancing their ability to cope, making them more resilient. This process is analogous to the strengthening that occurs in muscles and the cardiovascular system during exercise. This adaptive response involves increased production of stress-resistant proteins and can lead to improved bioenergetics and reduced oxidative stress. The activation of the parasympathetic system, driven by increased activity of cholinergic neurons in the brainstem, may also contribute to reduced blood pressure observed with intermittent fasting. Furthermore, intermittent fasting is a key environmental stimulus for the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which has powerful effects on learning capabilities, memory, and neuroprotection. Extensive research has explored the efficacy of intermittent fasting across various health domains, with the focus on weight management, metabolic health, cognitive function, and cellular longevity. One of the primary motivations for individuals to adopt intermittent fasting is weight loss. Research indicates that intermittent fasting regimens generally lead to a decrease in weight. When fasting, insulin levels drop, prompting the body to shift from burning glucose to utilizing stored fat for energy. This enhanced fat metabolism and promotion of ketosis contribute to increased fat burning. Additionally, the restricted eating windows naturally lead to a lower overall caloric intake, which is a fundamental principle of weight loss. Studies suggest that IF can also boost metabolism by increasing norepinephrine levels, further aiding calorie expenditure. A comprehensive review of nearly 100 randomized clinical trials involving over 6,500 adults found that all intermittent fasting strategies, alternate day fasting, whole day fasting, and time-restricted eating and continuous energy restriction diets resulted in body weight reduction compared to an unrestricted diet. Importantly, this review concluded that intermittent fasting is as effective as traditional calorie restriction diets for weight loss. Participants following either approach typically lost an average of 1.7 to 2.5 kilograms more than those who ate without restrictions. While all three fasting approaches showed similar results over the long term, alternate day fasting, ADF, offered greater short-term weight loss benefits, with participants losing approximately 1.3 kilograms more than those on a reduced calorie diet within shorter trial durations, less than 24 weeks. However, this short-term advantage of ADF was not sustained in moderate to long-term trials, greater than 24 weeks, where no significant differences were observed between IF strategies and continuous energy restriction. Some studies also suggest that intermittent fasting may lead to greater reductions in visceral belly fat, which surrounds major organs, as well as overall body fat, compared to continuous calorie restriction. While the evidence strongly supports IF as an effective tool for weight loss, similar to traditional calorie restriction, the key lies in finding a sustainable approach that fits an individual's lifestyle. Intermittent fasting has been linked to several improvements in metabolic health, particularly concerning blood sugar regulation, lipid profiles, and blood pressure. Intermittent fasting may significantly improve blood sugar management by reducing insulin resistance. Decreasing insulin resistance enhances the body's sensitivity to insulin, allowing for more efficient transport of glucose from the bloodstream into cells. This mechanism, coupled with the potential blood sugar lowering effects of fasting, can help maintain stable blood sugar levels, preventing spikes and crashes. A 2023 study involving 209 individuals found that intermittent fasting 3 days per week could reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes by increasing insulin sensitivity. A 2022 review also noted that intermittent fasting, including time-restricted feeding, might reduce risk factors associated with metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions that increase the likelihood of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. Furthermore, there is evidence suggesting that type 2 diabetes remission may be possible by following an intermittent fasting diet, with some studies showing significant reductions in HbA1c levels. Intermittent fasting has been associated with enhanced heart health by improving blood pressure, triglycerides, and cholesterol levels. Research indicates that IF may improve the blood lipid profile by increasing fatty acid oxidation and ApoA production, while simultaneously decreasing ApoB synthesis, hepatic triglycerides, and very low-density lipoprotein production, VLDL. These physiological changes can help reduce serum levels of VLDL, LDL-C, bad cholesterol, and small dense LDL-C. Reviews have shown that alternate day fasting can reduce total cholesterol levels and several risk factors for heart disease in individuals with overweight. Another review demonstrated that ADF could significantly decrease blood pressure, blood triglycerides, total cholesterol, and LDL cholesterol. A large network meta-analysis found that ADF compared to time-restricted eating showed small reductions in triglycerides and systolic blood pressure and moderate reductions in non-high-density lipoprotein cholesterol and total cholesterol. While some studies show promising effects on lipid profiles, no consistent differences were noted between IF, continuous energy restriction, and ad libitum diets for HbA1c and high-density lipoprotein cholesterol in a large meta-analysis. Chronic inflammation is implicated in the development of numerous chronic conditions, including heart disease, cancer, and rheumatoid arthritis. Some studies suggest that fasting can help decrease levels of inflammation and promote better health. A 2022 review of 18 studies found that intermittent fasting could significantly reduce levels of C-reactive protein, a key marker of inflammation. A small study also indicated that practicing intermittent fasting combined with resistance training for 1 year decreased inflammatory markers and reduced certain heart disease risk factors compared to resistance training alone. This anti-inflammatory effect may contribute to the broader health benefits observed with intermittent fasting. Emerging research suggests that intermittent fasting may have beneficial effects on cognition and brain health, potentially offering neuroprotective and neuroadaptive processes. The impact of IF on the central nervous system is still being fully elucidated, but several factors are thought to be involved, including changes in energy metabolism, oxidative damage, insulin sensitivity, inflammation, and functional changes related to various neurotransmitters and hormones.
During fasting, the brain can utilize ketone bodies as a major energy source, especially in low glucose states. The presence of ketone bodies has been shown to increase the expression of genes for brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which has powerful role in learning capabilities, memory, and neurogenesis in regions like the hippocampus, striatum, and the cerebral cortex. Mild stressors such as restricted daily intake have been shown to increase new neuron formation, supporting the link between cognition and neuroplasticity. Animal studies have demonstrated that intermittent fasting may enhance various cognitive domains, including working memory, spatial memory, and associative memory, and may offer neuroprotective effects by decreasing amyloid beta aggregates and microglia activation, which are implicated in neurodegenerative diseases.
Human studies, while less extensive, also show some promising results. For example, a study on older adults found that those who continued physical activity during Ramadan intermittent fasting improved performance in executive function, attention, inhibition, associative memory, and recognition memory, despite impaired sleep quality. Other human studies have reported beneficial effects on psychomotor function, attention, and processing speed. While much of the robust evidence for brain health benefits comes from animal models, the underlying mechanisms suggest a plausible pathway for similar effects in humans, warranting further investigation. Intermittent fasting's influence on cellular health extends to processes that may impact longevity and disease prevention. The activation of autophagy, a cellular recycling system, is a key mechanism through which IF is thought to confer these benefits. By breaking down damaged or unwanted cellular components, autophagy helps maintain cellular homeostasis and can protect against cardiovascular, inflammatory, and neurodegenerative diseases, and potentially cancer. In experimental models, particularly in animals and insects, fasting has been shown to kill damaged cells and activate stem cells, which then replace the damaged cells with new, healthy ones. This cellular cleansing and repair process is hypothesized to slow aging. Some animal studies have found promising results regarding the lifespan extending effects of fasting, with one study noting that periodic fasting increased the diversity of beneficial gut bacteria and sirtuins, proteins associated with longevity. While these findings are compelling, much of the longevity research is still limited to animal models, and more human studies are needed to confirm these effects and understand which fasting plans are most effective for human longevity. From an anti-cancer perspective, some early-stage research suggests that intermittent fasting may benefit cancer treatment and prevention. Cancer cells are known to be highly dependent on glucose. During fasting, when glucose is less available, normal cells can adapt to use alternative energy sources like fats and proteins, while cancer cells, with their altered metabolism, may be more vulnerable. This differential response could potentially decrease tumor growth and increase the effectiveness of chemotherapy by making cancerous cells more sensitive to treatment while safeguarding normal cells. However, human studies are still needed to fully understand IF's influence on cancer development and treatment, and it is recommended that individuals undergoing cancer treatment only pursue intermittent fasting as a part of a clinical trial due to potential negative effects in some situations. Despite the promising findings, the scientific understanding of intermittent fasting is still evolving, and several limitations in current research and potential risks for individuals need to be considered. A significant limitation in the current body of research on intermittent fasting is the scarcity of long-term human studies. Many longevity studies and investigations into specific physiological mechanisms have been conducted primarily in animals and insects, making their direct applicability and conclusive benefits in humans less certain. Furthermore, in human studies that do show benefits, it is often challenging to definitively determine whether the positive outcomes are a direct result of the fasting regimen itself or simply a consequence of overall weight loss and reduced caloric intake.
While some studies attempt to isolate the effects of fasting, more research is needed to fully disentangle these variables. The heterogeneity of study designs, including variations in fasting protocols, participant populations, and follow-up durations, also contributes to inconsistencies in findings and limits generalizability. For instance, a large meta-analysis noted considerable heterogeneity and imprecision in evidence for body weight reduction across various diet comparisons. Adherence to intermittent fasting protocols, particularly the more restrictive ones like whole-day fasting, can be challenging over the long term. Some studies report significant declines in adherence, with one whole-day fasting study showing adherence dropping from 74% at 6 weeks to 22% at 52 weeks. This poor long-term adherence can undermine the sustained benefits of these dietary strategies. Additionally, the lack of adjustment for multiple comparisons in some meta-analyses and the exclusion of outcomes with fewer than 3 eligible studies may limit the comprehensiveness of the findings. Intermittent fasting is not suitable for everyone, and it can lead to various side effects and pose risks for certain populations. Common side effects reported during fasting periods include hunger, headaches, potentially due to caffeine withdrawal, dehydration, or low blood sugar, fatigue, low energy, dizziness, and mood disturbances such as irritability and aggression. Digestive issues like constipation and bloating, bad breath, and sleep disturbances have also been reported. More severe issues can include dehydration, polyuria, excessive urination, nutrient deficiencies, and malnutrition, especially if the eating windows are not filled with nutrient-dense foods. There is a particular risk of hypoglycemia, dangerously low blood sugar levels, for individuals with diabetes, and this risk is heightened if medication adjustments are not made under medical supervision. A significant concern is the potential for intermittent fasting to lead to or exacerbate eating disorders. The restrictive nature of fasting can trigger disordered eating behaviors, such as an all-or-nothing mindset, increased cravings, binge-restrict cycles, body dissatisfaction, and anxiety or shame around food. For individuals with a history or susceptibility to eating disorders, intermittent fasting may amplify or conceal disordered behaviors and inhibit recovery efforts. Intermittent fasting is generally not recommended for several groups of people due to potential complications and safety concerns. Children and adolescents under 18, pregnant or breastfeeding women, individuals who are underweight or malnourished, people with a history or active eating disorders, individuals with diabetes or those taking medications that affect blood glucose levels, such as insulin or type 2 diabetes drugs, people with low blood pressure or those taking blood pressure medications, diuretics, or blood thinners, individuals over 65 years of age, those with heart, liver, or kidney disease, people at high risk of bone loss and falls, individuals whose social life heavily revolves around mealtimes, as skipping meals might make the diet unsustainable for them. It is crucial for anyone considering intermittent fasting to consult with a primary care physician or a healthcare professional before making significant dietary changes, especially if they have underlying health conditions, are taking medications, or have any concerns about potential side effects. Medical guidance is essential to assess individual suitability, adjust medication dosages, and monitor for adverse effects. Major health organizations and experts generally acknowledge the emerging evidence supporting intermittent fasting for weight loss and certain cardiometabolic health markers, but they emphasize caution and the need for personalized approaches. The American Heart Association, in preliminary research presented in 2024, highlighted a concerning finding. Individuals who limited their eating to less than 8 hours per day showed a 91% higher risk of death due to cardiovascular disease compared to those eating across 12 to 16 hours. This increased risk was also observed in people with existing heart disease or cancer. While previous research noted short-term cardiometabolic benefits, this study suggests potential long-term adverse effects and underscores that time-restricted eating did not reduce the overall risk of death from any cause. This finding, though preliminary, calls for significant caution regarding the long-term safety of very short eating windows.
The American Diabetes Association, or ADA, recognizes that fasting can efficiently reduce type 2 diabetes risk, improve insulin sensitivity, and lower blood pressure. They note that intermittent fasting, such as the 16-8 method, may help lower blood glucose levels and promote weight loss in the short term. And there is evidence for type 2 diabetes remission with IF. However, the ADA strongly advises that individuals with diabetes consult a healthcare professional before starting any fast due to the particular risk of complications from metabolic changes, including hypoglycemia. They stress the importance of discussing medication adjustments and glucose monitoring as part of a fasting management plan. The National Institutes of Health, or NIH, has funded research into intermittent fasting, acknowledging early clues from animal studies about its potential benefits for diabetes, heart disease, cognitive decline, and even aging and cancer. However, NIH-funded researchers emphasize that much remains unknown, particularly regarding long-term effects in humans, and whether observed benefits are solely due to weight loss or the fasting process itself. They caution against trying fasting diets not based on research and reiterate the importance of consulting a healthcare provider, especially for individuals with certain health conditions or those on specific medications. Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health researchers, co-authoring a systematic review, found that intermittent fasting diets can be as effective for weight loss and cardiometabolic health as traditional calorie-restricted diets. They noted that alternate day fasting showed superior results in short-term weight loss and improvements in waist circumference, cholesterol, and triglyceride levels. However, they too highlight that most clinical trials were short-term, less than 24 weeks, and that more research is needed on long-term health impacts. Experts from Harvard emphasize that IF is not a universal solution and that any dietary change requires consultation with healthcare providers, considering individual medical history, preferences, social environment, and realistic long-term compliance. Overall, the consensus among health organizations and experts is that while intermittent fasting shows promise for weight loss and improvements in certain cardiometabolic markers, it is not a universally recommended approach. Its effectiveness is often comparable to traditional calorie restriction diets, and its long-term safety and efficacy, particularly for specific protocols, require more robust and extended human trials. The emphasis remains on personalized dietary strategies and professional medical guidance. Intermittent fasting, as an eating pattern, has demonstrated efficacy in promoting weight loss and improving several cardiometabolic health markers, including blood sugar regulation, insulin sensitivity, lipid profiles, and blood pressure. Its physiological mechanisms involve a metabolic shift from glucose to fat and ketone utilization, activation of cellular repair processes like autophagy, and beneficial hormonal adaptations. Different protocols, such as time-restricted eating, alternate day fasting, and whole day fasting, offer varying degrees of intensity and potential benefits, with alternate day fasting showing superior short-term weight loss. However, the question, does it really work, must be answered with nuance. While it can be an effective tool, its benefits are often comparable to traditional calorie-restricted diets, and its long-term sustainability and safety require further investigation. The promising findings from animal studies, particularly concerning longevity and brain health, need to be conclusively replicated in human trials. Crucially, recent preliminary research suggests potential long-term cardiovascular risks associated with very short eating windows, highlighting the importance of ongoing research into the long-term safety of specific IF protocols. Intermittent fasting is not a universal solution and carries potential side effects, including hunger, headaches, fatigue, and significantly, a risk of exacerbating or triggering eating disorders. It is contraindicated for several populations, including children, pregnant or breastfeeding women, individuals with diabetes or certain medical conditions, and those on specific medications. Therefore, while intermittent fasting presents a viable option for some individuals seeking weight management and metabolic improvements, it necessitates a highly personalized approach. Any consideration of adopting intermittent fasting should always be undertaken in consultation with a qualified healthcare professional to assess individual suitability, manage potential risks, and ensure a balanced and nutrient-dense dietary intake during eating periods. The ultimate success of any dietary strategy, including intermittent fasting, hinges on its long-term adherence and integration into a holistic health plan.